let us know when we're actually live again, please? Or do you want us to count you in?
Yeah, do you want me to count you in?
Oh.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. Obviously, we just had a technical glitch there. Everything is back up and running. So I'll revert back to Councillor Ben Softlet. Your question, obviously, to Amjad, please. I think it were about Clarborough Playground.
Yeah, I was just touching on that because Clarborough's in my ward. It was just to confirm that it was just absent from the website itself, and internally it's correctly recorded, and to clarify whether it was now on the website for inclusion.
Thank you. So in terms of our testing, it was the only issue was that it wasn't on the website. Internally, it is recorded. In terms of whether that's now been implemented, that's something we haven't checked, but we would follow up. But it would be something that would be quite easy for the management team to do within different spaces.
That's great. Thanks, Amjad.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for your report, Amjad. I will now move to the recommendation on page 48. Members, please respond if you are in favour, against or abstaining. Please answer clearly and only when your name is called. Councillor Dave Challoner, I'm in favour. Councillor Carolyn Troop.
In favour, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Gary Clarkson.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Cliff Entwistle.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Jill Freeman.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor John Ogle.
In favour, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor David Presley.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Lynn Schuler.
In favour, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Ben Softlet.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. That's carried.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yeah.
Sorry. Could you just go back to Councillor
Oh,
Freeman
yeah.
for the first vote?
Yeah.
Thank you.
On the first, on the agenda item 6A, the budget monitoring, Jill, we didn't record your vote. Could you just say now if you're in favour, against or abstaining?
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. So that makes the record straight now, Ellen. Agenda item, thank you, Anjab, for your report and all the hard work that you're doing, and I hope that your team and everybody are staying safe and keep well, and we'll see you for the next audit risk update, or if you're staying online to listen to the next agenda item.
Thank you very much, Chair. If I could take this opportunity to thank the committee and also the management team for bearing with us during the internal audit work. I know it's not been easy. The last thing you want on your minds when you're having to do all this extra work is the auditors, getting on Teams and trying to get information off you. But the council management team have been absolutely brilliant, Chair. So I'd like to pass on thanks to them as well. And hopefully I'll see you all at the next meeting.
Right, thank you, Anjab.
Thank you. And if it's okay with you, Chair, if I could leave the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Cheers. Thank you. Take care. Thank you very much.
Bye.
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 Agenda item number 7B is External Auditors Annual Completion Report, Letter of Representation and Audited Statement of Accounts for 2019 to 2020, pages 83 to 282 of your agenda. This report was sent out separately as well, and Linda is going to take the lead on the report and then obviously hand over to John Presley for the second part of the report. Thank you. Over to you, Linda.
Thank you, Chair. So, yes, the annual completion report identifies the significant findings from the audit, along with the auditor's proposed opinion on the statement of accounts and the value for money conclusion. So I'll just highlight the key areas for you, and John will go into further detail. So one of the implications of COVID-19 was that the legislation was passed to delay the statutory publication date of the audit opinion until the 30th of November 2020. The audit completion reviews internal controls has identified 5 areas which require review and improvement. 2 are medium priority and 3 are a low priority, and the details are provided in the annual completion report. The report provides further details of any errors and misstatements made in the accounts. In summary, there were 2 main adjustments made. These were changes in indexation rates, which resulted in the value of the council's dwellings increasing by 15.2 million. And a further adjustment was a decrease in valuation of Priory Court by 1.3 million. Both of these adjustments impacted on the value of the balance sheet, but have no impact on the council's outturn position or usable reserves. There were 2 further smaller adjustments made, which have resulted in the general fund balances increasing by 83,000. The statement of accounts presented for approval include all the agreed adjustments made in accordance with the audit findings. So Mazars, they've substantially completed their audit work on the financial statements and value for money conclusion and have produced their annual completion report. However, at the time of preparing the report, there was a number of areas which remained outstanding, and 2 of these related to the effect of COVID pandemic. These relate to the Nottinghamshire Pension Fund assets and the valuation of the council's property, plant and equipment. In line with normal practice, the auditors will disclose what is known as an emphasis of matter in their audit report, and this disclosure is made to draw the attention to these matters, but have no impact on the auditor's opinions, and full details are provided in the auditor's report. 3.6 just provides a clarification of what an emphasis of matter disclosure is, because I don't think it's something that we've come across before. And the auditors include this paragraph to refer matters appropriately, refers to a matter appropriately presented or disclosed in the financial statements, that in the auditor's judgment is of such importance, it is fundamental to draw this out and bring it to the reader's attentions. 3.7 just identifies that some of the audit work is still outstanding, but the auditors have advised there may be a delay in issuing the audit certificate. This delay will not have any effect on the auditor's conclusion. Further, at 3.8, the report advises that due to additional work that the auditors have had to take on during the year, it's increased their workload, and this is likely to have an impact on the fee required. The fee variation has to be approved by the PSAA, and that is yet still to be agreed. The 3.9, the headline message from the completion report is that the auditor is anticipating issuing an unqualified audit opinion on the council's financial statements before the deadline of the 30th of November 2020, and that the opinion is not modified in respect of the emphasis of matter disclosure. Just moving on to the annual statement of accounts, just to confirm that the audit regulations, the accounts and audit regulations require the authority must prepare and prepare and publish its approved draft and audited statement of accounts by the 31st of May and 31st of July respectively. But we've mentioned this before, that because of the COVID-19 virus, legislation was passed and these dates had been postponed to the 31st of August and the 30th of November. So in accordance with the council's constitution and the remit of this committee, the statement of accounts is brought for your approval, and that's shown in Appendix 2. The council published the draft statement of accounts on the website before the 31st of August, and we published during June, so it was well in line of that deadline. So after the audit has concluded, the accounts are then required to be recertified with the findings of the audit reported back to this meeting, and that's the audit completion report. Just moving on to the approval of the accounts. So the aims of the regulation is for members to demonstrate their ownership of the accounting statements in order to assist members in having a chance to review the accounts before the adoption of the statement of accounts and annual governance statement. We presented these to the committee on the 11th of June. Just moving on to 3.19, the annual governance statement. So this has been reviewed by the auditors, updated accordingly, and is included in the annual statement of accounts. The Audit and Risk Scrutiny Committee approved the draft annual governance statement on the 28th of May, and the annual governance statement must be published no later than the 30th of November. The letter of representation is in essence is the letter that states that all the information submitted is accurate and all the material information has been disclosed to the auditors. The external auditor requires a signed management representation letter before they can issue their audit opinion. And once the external auditor has finalised their opinions and conclusions, they will then prepare their annual audit letter and close the audit. And then if John would like to provide any further details to the committee, that would be fine.
Over to you, John. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I will keep it fairly brief because Linda's gone into a great deal of detail already. Just one point of clarification from me, and that is it's the auditor's opinion that is required for the 30th of November for the accounts to go on the website. You don't need the audit certificate, which indicates that the work has been completed for the 30th of November. The audit certificate will be issued after the whole of government accounts work has been completed, and the deadline for doing that is on the 4th of December. So it's our opinion that you need for the accounts to go up there on the website by the deadline that has been set for the 30th of November, and that looks to be doable, as you can see from the contents of our report. I think overall it's a reasonable report in terms of the accounts, particularly against the backdrop of COVID, and I would like to thank Linda and the finance team for their help and support throughout the course of doing our audit work. As Amjad said earlier on, it's not good news to have auditors asking a whole load of questions against the backdrop of COVID and all the challenges of remote working, and we have managed to get through all of that. So thank you very much for turning around our information requests and everything else. So that's it from me. So I would like to sort of open up the report for any questions that members may have.
Right, thank you for that, John. I will do as before, go round all the members of the committee in alphabetical order. And if anybody has got any questions, if they would like to put them to John or even to Linda about the report. So, Councillor Dave Challoner, I've got no question. Thank you. Councillor Carolyn Troop.
Yeah.
Are you there, Carolyn?
Councillor Troop, can you unmute your microphone, please?
So, yeah, I'd unmuted it and then it's gone back on mute again. Yeah, I'm just looking at the page number in the report where it talks about significant findings. And there's a description of a risk to do with valuation of property and plant. And it says there's quite a significant risk. That related to an internal valuation by an internal valuer, by the look of that. Would it be more prudent to have an external valuer rather than an internal valuer for our property and plant?
I don't think it really matters at the end of the day whether the valuer is internal or external, providing the work is done to the correct standard and appropriate objectivity is brought to the work. That's the key challenge. So on that note, Linda, over to yourself and Dave for a view on that.
Yeah, I think the requirement is that it's an RICS appointed value, and it's got the appropriate qualification, and we've got one internal. So I'm not sure it had anything to have an external value to it rather than our own qualified internal value.
Thank you for that. Does that answer your question, Councillor?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Dave and John.
Councillor Gary Clarkson.
No questions on this report, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Cliff Entwistle.
No questions on this, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jill Freeman.
No questions, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor John Ogle.
No questions on this report, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor David Presley.
No questions, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Lynn Schuler.
No questions, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ben Soffler.
No questions, Chair.
Thank you. I would like to thank both Linda and John for the presentation of the audit report. I will now move to the recommendation on page 87. If members could please respond if they are in favour, against or abstaining, please answer clearly and only when your name is called. Councillor David Challoner, I'm in favour. Councillor Carolyn Troop.
In favour, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Gary Clarkson.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Cliff Entwistle.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Jill Freeman.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor John Ogle.
In favour, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor David Presley.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Lynn Schuler.
In favour, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Ben Soffler.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you, John, for the presentation, and thank you for your attendance at the meeting this evening. Obviously, if you've got other pressing engagements, obviously you can go, but obviously you are welcome to stay. But I would like to thank you for your attendance and all the work that has gone in. Obviously, I know the delay of everything with COVID-19 has put everything a bit behind, but thank you for working with our finance team of the council and delivering a report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Much appreciated.
Agenda item 7C is Corporate Risk Management, Quarter 2, pages 283 to 292 of your agenda. And I would ask Linda to give this report, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this report provides an update to members on the current level of assurance that can be provided against each of the identified corporate risks. The existing risks identified within both the Council's corporate and operational service risk registers are subject to quarterly review by senior management and on an ongoing basis through the work of internal audit. So this provides an update up to the end of September. Just to point out at 3.5, a separate COVID-19 risk register is in the process of being completed. All service areas are going to complete the register, incorporating the risks associated with the pandemic and provide details as to how services continue to respond and the measures and changes that have or are needed to be put into place. Initial areas of risk that are being considered and included are the impact on services, the workforce, supply chains, and the effect on the Council's reserves and financial performance will also be considered. This document should be available for the next meeting and an update will be provided. So looking at the corporate risks that we've identified, The first one is the changes in welfare reforms creating a significant negative community impact. Just to give you an update from the previous report, so although the risk is mitigated as far as it can be at the current time, the COVID implications are still obviously still ongoing, and the impact is still not yet fully known, but increases the likelihood of loss of income to households. At the time of writing, there was 5,814 discretionary council tax grants, which had been paid at that point. And this is assisting as it reduces the council tax liability. Collection is down by 0.77% up to the end of October, and this will continue to be monitored. Therefore, it requires monitoring and evaluating, and as such, this risk score remains the same at D3 due to the potential effect on collection and arrears. So D3 is high and a serious impact. Moving on to the second risk, which is information and data loss. This refers to the risk of information or data loss or external hacking into the council's IT systems. The update from the previous report on this is that the COVID pandemic has coincided with a number of increased cyber incidents, which includes the public sector. Regular updates are circulated to staff and members, etc., reminding them of the risks, especially at this time of remote working. Advice has also been issued by the Cabinet Office, and we are assessing our current arrangements against these recommendations. Funding has been secured for specific cyber resilience course, and that's going to be undertaken by the ICT manager. And the head of corporate resources also participating in the local government association briefing sessions. The third risk refers to the long-term financial integrity of the council. The uncertainty surrounding the local government finances and the implementation plans of business rates retention scheme continues to give the uncertainty on our future funding levels. To give you an update from the previous report, again, it's the impact of the loss of income due to COVID remains to be monitored. We're looking at this on a daily basis, specifically as well around council tax and business rate collection rates. Again, based on the latest data, it's estimated that this year's collection losses for council tax will be around 1.5 million in total, with the council's 10% share of this around 150,000. Sorry about this. The business rates, we're anticipating a loss of collection of around 1.3 million, and the council's 40% share of this is around 520,000. A further update was that the council's medium-term financial plan, an update was presented to Cabinet on the 13th of October, and that provides an overview of the likely impact of COVID pandemic on the council's finances for this year and also for the next 4 years up to 24-25. The review identified that there's now expected to be a funding shortfall of around £2 million over the next 5 years. This increase in the shortfall is mainly as a result of the outbreak, the additional costs incurred, the loss of income from fees and charges, and lower than expected rates of collection from council tax and business rates. So steps are already being taken to address this. So, for example, we're reviewing the level of fees and charges and looking at the additional future income streams which are planned to be generated, for example, through the Bridgecore and Middleton's capital projects. Since the last report as well, the council has been allocated with a further 522,000. This is the fourth tranche of the COVID grants issued by government, and this also will assist with bridging the funding gap identified. However, the position regarding a full reimbursement of COVID-related costs and income is becoming concerning, as we've previously discussed, as not all our losses will be covered by government, and the council will have to absorb some of these costs. The exact project amounts are still evolving and will keep changing throughout the year, but we will keep updating members as more certainty is obtained. At the moment, we're confident that we're doing everything we can to monitor and mitigate these financial risks. But however, due to the unknown and uncontrollable factors, the risk score will remain the same. Moving on to the failure to properly risk assess our practices and take appropriate action. So council is required under health and safety legislation to ensure that risk assessments are undertaken in all the service areas. Previous meetings, the IOSH managing safety training was scheduled to take place during November. A decision was corporately made to cancel the all face-to-face training due to the COVID pandemic, and this training has now been rescheduled to take place during 2021. COVID secure risk assessments have been prepared for all workplaces where employees are presenting. The assessments have identified all necessary controls to achieve compliance with national COVID guidance, and managers will be prompted to review these at least every 3 months, and the health and safety team are getting involved, and they'll make sure they'll monitor the compliance of this. And moving on to failure to properly risk assess our tangible assets. So the regular physical condition of surveys of its non-housing tangible assets, this looks at that. To update members on this one, the appointed contactor, if you recall, is Gleeds, and they're currently working to collate data on all the council's assets from the various information sources, with the aim of creating just one comprehensive list. Once this has been finalised, the project group will be able to review the list and identify any potential compliance gaps, and they'll formulate a plan to address any weaknesses. Due to the pandemic, the GLEAD staff have been furloughed. This has slowed progress down, but they are getting back to work. We're hopeful that the original timetable will be adhered to, but it may slip slightly into next year. A report is expected from Gleeds for the next meeting, which will provide details of their findings and recommendations with some proposals for the future processes to be put into place. Moving on to the next one, which is the inspection programme on tree management. So just to recap, we've got a statutory and legal responsibility to provide areas of land for open spaces. The update from the last meeting shows that the tree management plan is now in place for parks, covering the high risk areas, and the tree mapping software system has been introduced. Further work is required to include all tree assets within the housing and estate service areas. A subgroup has been set up and they've identified and planned the way forward for the housing sites. Areas have been prioritised and they'll be reviewed on this basis. Just to update, the vacant post of Senior Technical Officer and the vacant Parks Manager's post have now been filled. Initial schedules for parks and open spaces have been completed. These will be continuously changing as the trees are re-inspected. Year 1 reassessments of Kings Park was completed during October. Kings Park paper inspection records have now been uploaded onto the IT system with tree assets mapped. The housing and wide estate sites still need to be completed. The housing site assessments are to be undertaken as part of the site caretaker inspections from November 2020 onwards, reviewing the estates with public open spaces as well. And moving on to number 7, the health and safety compliance in council house stock and other own premises. So this is as a result of the Grenfell Tower disaster. And consequently, new legislation has been put into place looking at fire safety threats. So just to update where we were from last time, all of the compliance management plans and operational guidance is complete. implementation meetings with key managers have started. We've been looking into IT upgrades. They're being investigated to ensure compliance data is in one place. A data governance group has been established. The procurement for the third-party quality assurance is underway for gas, water and electrical safety. A company called Morgan and Lambert have been procured to undertake this work, and they're identifying key compliance areas, and an annual review report is being compiled. Savills, they've been appointed as the fire risk assessors, and they're due to commence fire risk assessments shortly across all the stock. They're compiling a rolling compliance and maintenance report for properties. 5 compliance management courses have been arranged for senior management, and further training and development is being rolled out for all appropriate staff over the next 2 years. I'm happy to take any questions on those.
Thank you, Linda, for that report. A very in-depth report there.
Update.
Yeah. Right. I'll once again go around councillors, asking them if they've got any questions on Linda's report. I think there's quite a few different areas what people had to absorb there, and I won't be surprised at 1 or 2 questions coming out of there, Linda. Myself, I've just got a couple of questions first. Obviously, the council, when the first initial lockdown happened, the council gave people the opportunity of freezing council tax and things like that. Was there much of an uptake on that, or has it seemed to only been taken up by a few and now they started paying the council tax again?
Dave, do you want to update on that, please?
Yeah, I can update. We never gave an opportunity to freeze council tax payments. What we did was we suspended any recovery on council tax arrears.
Right.
There was further grants handed out to those people, and I think it's mentioned in the report. There's about 5,800 payments of £150 for those who were in most need. It was working age benefit claimants that received £150 towards their council tax. We've since restarted collecting council tax again. We did take quite a hit on council tax as people stopped paying when we stopped the recovery process, and we also took a hit because, of course, some people who dropped into benefits would then not get would not be paying their council tax. So we took, I think it was about 1.5 million hit on council tax. But since we've started the recovery process, we're beginning to pull that back now after the lockdown finished.
Right, thank you for that, David. Councillor Carolyn Troop, have you got any questions?
No, not a question, Chairman, but just a comment. How pleasing it is to see we have now got a tree management plan in place. I think that's been long outstanding, a long while. And I think it's pleased to see that I'm pleased to see it's there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Carolyn. Councillor Gary Clarkson.
No question, Chair. A very good report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gary. Councillor Cliff Entwistle.
No questions at this time, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jill Freeman.
No questions, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor John Ogle.
Thorough report, Chairman. No questions.
Thank you very much. John. Councillor David Presley.
Just on the tree management one, Chairman, I think that's important that Caroline highlighted that. And I think we need to know as members where the problems are, because where the parks are, I've got 2 myself, which is one in Rhodesia and one at Sandhill Lake. And some of the trees fell down this time. So I think it might come to Health and Safety, Chairman, that the members need where these bad trees are, because we need to know, because our residents. So I think the plan's very good, but we need to be updated as members where we are with it, and what problems we're having with it.
Yeah, I'm just making a note of this, David, because I'm going to be emailing Jim Moran, so I'm going to be asking him about that. Right. Obviously, Julie, what Councillor Presley's just said, I've just made a note on things, and obviously I'll make sure that this becomes like an agendaed item through the Health and Safety Committee, and then if there's anything that needs reporting back to audit side, it can be. Councillor Lynn Schuler, have you got any questions?
No questions, thank you. Good report, thank you, Linda. But I do echo Councillor Troop's observations.
Thank you. Councillor Ben Sofflet.
Just really to echo what David said, it'd be good to get a copy for all relevant areas within each of the members' wards. So we can share those with parish councils, and also the housing site assessments that commence this month. Is there an agreed end date for those, or is it open-ended?
Could you answer that, Linda?
Sorry, which was that?
The housing site assessments for the tree. It started this month, but is there a committed end date for that?
I don't think there's a committed end date. I think it's probably going to be an ongoing, but I can double check that for you.
Yeah, because again, I had a complaint from a resident in my ward about a tree that was in former A1 housing land. So it'd be good to feed that back as well.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll check that.
All right, thank you to everybody for their contribution on that agenda item. I'd like to thank Linda for a very thorough report. Obviously, with the paperwork going out, people can see how things are being addressed. So thank you for that, Linda. I now move to the recommendation on page 291, which the committee note the progress of actions identified within the corporate risk register. If members would like to respond in favour, against or abstaining, please answer clearly only when your name is called. Thank you. Councillor David Challoner, in favour. Thank you. Councillor Carolyn True.
In favour, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Gary Clarkson.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you, Gary. Councillor Cliff Entwistle.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you, Cliff. Councillor Jill Freeman.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you, Jill. Councillor John Ogle.
In favour, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor David Presley.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Lynn Schuler.
In favour, Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ben Sofflet.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 8 is section B, items for discussion in private. The live stream will shortly be stopped as we move to the confidential items. I would like to thank anyone who has been watching the live stream meeting. Can I please confirm that in accordance with Part 1 of the Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, and after considering the public interest test as set out by the officer in the body of the report, members agree that the following items of business involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 8A section B, and therefore in accordance with section 100A of the Act, the press public will be excluded from this meeting. Are members happy with that course of action? At this point, the live streaming will be stopped for the confidential item. So I'd like to thank everybody who has been part of the live streaming. And if the live stream